The Vorax commander's heavy, scaled sidearm hit the deck with a hollow thud that seemed to vibrate through the entire flagship. Elias Thorne didn't move. He stood at the center of the bridge, a silhouette of liquid black armor that didn't reflect the red emergency strobes. Pulsed like a slow, dying star. The air tasted of ozone and the commander's sudden, sharp terror. For a heartbeat, the galaxy's most efficient killers forgot how to breathe. What would happen if the ghost actually stopped holding back? The question hung in the silence, unanswered and terrifying. Beneath the visor, Elias Thorne, my husband, was probably just counting his heartbeats. Or maybe he was thinking about the tomatoes. Elias didn't look like a killer. He looked like he hadn't slept since the war began. Aurelia Apex had been my cage for 127 cycles. A cathedral of crystal pillars and floating gardens where third daughters were traded for border security. When the Emperor announced my marriage to a human, the court tittered behind their fans. We were the Solari, a species that measured life in millennia. Humans were mayflies, primitives who had only recently stumbled into the light of faster-than-light travel. 11 days before the wedding, I had watched his transport land in the palace courtyard. It was a dented, gray thing that looked like an afterthought. Elias stepped off the ramp alone. He wasn't loud or crude like the broadcast suggested. He wore a simple jacket with a stuck zipper that he spent 3 seconds tugging at before he bowed to my father. It was a small, human frustration. It was the first time I saw his eyes. They were gray, like a storm over an ocean, and filled with a weariness that made my own youth feel like a burden. The wedding was a hollow affair, skipped by my sisters and dismissed by the Emperor. That night, Elias took a single blanket to the chair by the window. He didn't ask for the bed. He didn't even ask for a glass of water. "What kind of soldier are you?" I had asked from the darkness. "The kind that doesn't exist anymore," he replied. I began to notice the small things. The way his heart rate spiked during thunderstorms, his brain patterns mimicking a combat drop. The way he spent his mornings on our balcony. His hands deep in damp potting soil, pressing life into the earth while the court mocked his simplicity. At the royal banquet 3 weeks later, the Vorax ambassador was introduced. The Vorax are biologically incapable of fear, their neural pathways hardwired for aggression. But when the ambassador's eyes landed on Elias, the quiet gardener standing at my side, the creature's scales turned a sickly, translucent gray. He didn't just stop talking. He recoiled as if the sun had gone cold. "You," the ambassador whispered, his voice a jagged prayer. "Cannot be." Elias just stood there. He looked small. He looked tired. But I saw the way he shifted his weight. He wasn't a gardener then. He was a weapon waiting for a reason to fire. The Vorax fleet was a wall of steel. No, that was impossible for one man. That night I didn't sleep. I raided the worn leather bag Elias kept in the corner, the one he never opened in my presence. Inside, hidden beneath a spare shirt and a small, unidentifiable dark metal, I found a data chip. The recording was cold. It was the voice of a man making a choice to save 60 billion people by erasing 40,000 others. Elias hadn't just been a soldier. He had been the silence protocol personified, a shadow that walked through enemy moons and left nothing but dust and echoes behind, which meant the readings were wrong. His heart wasn't spiking because he was afraid of the thunder. It was preparing for the kill. The Vorax didn't wait. Within the hour, 100 dreadnoughts choked the sky above Aurelia Apex, their demand vibrating through the palace floor. Deliver the Wraith, or watch the world burn. My father's advisors talked of math and logic, of sacrificing one life to save billions, until Elias walked in. He wasn't the gardener anymore. He moved with a predator's economy, his eyes flat and gray as a tombstone. He asked for a shuttle and our armory's deepest vault. I followed him into the cold sublevels. He pressed his hand to a scanner, and a suit of liquid black armor flowed out like ink, sensing its master. As he sealed the helmet, his fingers caught on a loose thread at his wrist, a tiny, fraying piece of fabric that seemed absurd against the terrifying technology of the Wraith. He smoothed it down once, a quiet human gesture, before the machine took him over entirely. Then he was gone. We watched the screens as a single grain of sand approached a mountain of steel. The Vorax flagship opened fire, filling the void with enough energy to crack a planet, but the shuttle danced between the beams with a precision that defied physics. It didn't slow. It didn't waver. He boarded them alone. For 17 minutes, the flagship went dark. Communication vanished. When the feed flickered back, Elias stood on the bridge, his boot inches away from the dropped weapon of the Vorax commander. He didn't kill them. He simply showed them the data chip containing every secret they owned, a silent promise that their extinction was only a thought away if they stayed. The fleet retreated before the sun had fully risen. Elias returned to the balcony as dawn broke. The black armor retracted, folding away to reveal the man who just wanted to grow tomatoes. He looked at me, his hands still shaking from the adrenaline or the ghosts, and for the first time I didn't see a primitive or a legend. I saw a man who had spent 30 years trying to be ordinary because being extraordinary had cost him everything. He sat in the chair by the window, his eyes closed. On the table sat a small bowl of soil and a single sprouted seed.